Hello and welcome to another episode of the AutoTrader Podcast. My name is Wandile Sishi.
And my name is George Mienie. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about software dream cars as well as traffic. How much car tech is too much?
Yeah.
And how much is it really worth to you? And then traffic. Why is it getting so bad?
It's getting horrendous.
Let's not blame it all on load shedding. And then the third topic, why are cars looking so boring lately?
If at all. I mean, we'll debate that. I have some thoughts. on that. But coming into the first topic, I think something that I read that was quite interesting to me, George, is there was some research that was done, and it turns out about 40% of the car that you're buying ultimately is the cost that comes from the semiconductor electronics within the vehicle. So, for instance, in the US, the average cost of cars is about $681,000, but the 40% was almost 200,000 rand that the person's paying additional for these extra things. So I don't know.
I don't think they're extra things. They're
not extra things. No,
they're part of what a car is today. I mean, headlights are controlled by a silicon chip. Your indicators are controlled by a silicon chip. In the old days, indicators were a relay.
Okay.
There was a relay switch that operated the indicators.
Yeah.
People are always flabbergasted at how I know so much about the internal workings of a car. I just do. So it was operated by a relay switch. Now it's operated by a silicon chip.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, on a silicon chip is effectively a relay. It's a switch.
Yeah.
But it's just so minute.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's operated by a silicon chip.
But 40%, I said 200,000. No, it's more than that. It's about 410,000 rand. That's just, that's a huge amount. I understand, you do have the important inner workings of the car, such as headlights and stuff.
No, but everything. So, I mean,
even too much.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Windscreen wipers. Windscreen wipers were operated by a relay switch.
Yeah.
And now it's silicon and software. So that's indicators, headlights, windscreen wipers.
Yeah.
What else can you think of? That
the whole car is a computer ultimately, right? So that's
even in the ICE vehicles today.
Yeah.
The only thing that is really mechanical now is the engine and the gearbox.
That's fair.
I mean, even the injecting fuel into the cylinder, right? That injector is controlled by a silicon chip. Whereas 20, 30 years ago, it was a carburetor, mechanical.
I recently had to change the carburetor on my generator. And I was watching how that works as the guy was changing it. And I mean, it still works, but I did have to replace it, but it still works. The carburetors.
No, carburetors work well. It's inefficient, but it works well.
Yeah.
It causes more fuel consumption than is needed, whereas a injector can spray the exact amount of fuel required, depending on the advancement of the timing of the vehicle, because there's a different amount of fuel that's needed as the vehicle's engine revs up, and as the timing changes. There's a different amount of fuel that used to be controlled mechanically.
Yeah, and now it's time specific to how much is required.
Yes, based on the engine's internal combustion.
Yeah.
So that's another silicon chip, the injectors.
So I think what you're saying is
gearboxes. Let's talk about gearboxes for a second.
Yeah.
Historically, you manually changed gears, right?
So the gearing ratio essentially is now...
Well, not the gearing ratio, but just which gear was selected, when, at what revs. You did it as a human being. You were the silicon that did it.
Yeah.
Now, it has to be controlled by a silicon chip.
For efficiency.
All those gears that move inside that gearbox.
Yeah.
The clutch.
Yeah.
The clutch is controlled by a silicon chip.
I think my argument is not that...
so I don't think it's too much. It's just where we are.
Well, it did definitely. Look, it's made cars more efficient. It's cost saving in some aspects.
No, it's not.
However,
as the technology grows, it becomes more expensive, but the car becomes more efficient.
100%. But I think that some manufacturers are now taking it too far, where they're adding things in the car, and as a result, just these features that are being added into cars. Safety features, for instance, have increased tremendously in cars, yet fatalities are still on the rise, right?
Well, that's because people are, so you can't blame that on the lack of imagine what those fatalities would be
without it.
without those features, because what has been introduced into a car? A bloody phone. People and their texting and looking at their phones.
So that's what I mean. I don't think that the goal of the OEMs is the opposite. I think it's to make cars safer. It is to make cars more
It has
efficient.
made cars safer.
But people, as a result, are not as good drivers as they were before.
Yes, that's true.
We're
That's
less
true.
focused,
Yeah.
we're less distracted.
I'd agree with that.
More distracted, sorry, as a result of all these things. I mean, I don't know if you've been in the new BMWs right now, but that infotainment is not an infotainment system. It's an entertainment system.
Well, adaptive cruise control. It makes you lazy.
It makes
does.
you extremely lazy.
But it doesn't mean it mustn't be there, because it's getting us to autonomous driving,
so
which will be much safer.
So there's this crossover essentially that you're saying between this point where we're getting, I guess, dumber as drivers or becoming worse drivers, and cars are becoming to a point where we don't actually have to interact with them for us to get.
I agree with Elon Musk. Human beings shouldn't be driving cars.
Yeah.
We are the problem in the car.
Yeah, if your goal is to get from A to B, 100%. But there's other people in the world who.
So let me put it to you this way. In 19, when was the first moon landing?
I should know, the 69.
Yeah, it was the end of the 60s. It was before the end of the decade. Yeah, 20th July 69. That was the first moon landing. Okay.
Yeah.
That shuttle
had less technology than your phone.
Yes, it had less technology than your phone, but it had to be manually flown in some instances. Okay. It had electronics to fly,
and we landed.
There had to be a pilot.
Yeah.
Okay. There had to be a pilot and people controlling the shuttle.
Yeah.
Look at SpaceX's Falcon 9. Now, that took Doug Hurley and the crowd to the space station.
Yeah, I mean, you barely do anything. And it's landing itself.
They did nothing. And it's landing itself.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So what's the human, in that scenario, what's the human even there for then? I guess.
Redundancy.
Well, they're there to do the experiments in space, right? They're not.
They're there to do the things that computers can't do.
Yeah.
Which is essentially, make some decisions that can't be planned for.
Okay, let me give you another scenario then. If I told you that the next car that you were to buy, I could remove a lot of the semiconductors required for some of these gimmicks like ambient lighting and
ambient lighting,
all these extra things.
Yeah.
Would you not prefer that versus having to pay that giant premium? Because the reason I'm kind of...
You're telling me ambient lighting is take $100,000 off a car? I don't think so.
100%. But I'm leading to a point where we're getting to a point now where OEMs are considering doing subscription-based cars. So everyone has the same variant, so there's no variants. Everyone has the same car, and then you choose what sort of features you want, and it's all subscription-based.
Yeah, so how that works is the cost of manufacturing the car will be the same. Because every car has to have all the features.
Exactly. Every single car is fitted with everything.
Fitted with everything.
Yeah.
Whether that feature is switched on or not is up to the subscriber.
Yeah.
That's the future of subscription of cars.
But the cars will be more expensive then. In terms of a base model, it's going to be a base model. It's going to be more expensive than
there won't be a base model. There will be a car, and then you will choose whether you want the base features or not.
I think the point of entry, though, in terms of price, is going to be a lot higher as a result.
Of course, it will be.
Yeah,
you'll have a base price with no features.
Yeah.
Okay. They will cost that. The OEMs will cost that into their overall model. They will say, okay, a certain segment of consumers, because they've been selling cars to consumers for 100 years, right? A certain segment of consumers will take all the features. A certain segment of consumers will take these features. A certain segment of consumers will stick with the base model. Right?
So is there a premium for the guys who want the full 9 to cover the guys who essentially just want a normal Uber car?
This exact same scenario I would imagine as let's say health insurance. Okay, young people subsidize old people. It's a fact, and I'm okay with it because I'm going to get old one day. So are you. So the young people who are not using the medical aids insurance are subsidizing those that are, which are older. Yeah. And then you get the outliers where young people get sick and
get accidents or
whatever the case may be. But those, I don't think those are
far less than
the main.
Yeah.
So the same thing here. You'll get a base model that probably makes the OEM very little money. Okay. But it's the entry point. And the guys that subsidize those base model buyers will be the ones that take the features.
I think in some regions this will work. In a scenario, I think BMW tried, for instance, they cancelled this idea of subscriptions just because, there was kind of a hoo-ha around the world. But in a scenario where there's snow, for instance, and you need, a feature that'll clear the windscreen, and you can turn it on and off.
Well, you can then
Makes
subscribe
sense.
to
You
it.
can subscribe for just a period, which makes sense.
Exactly, like on your phone, where you want to subscribe to something for a week.
Exactly.
You can do it immediately, and then, over the air, they can switch the feature on.
100%. But in South Africa, a subscription-based sort of car or variant, I don't know if it'll work.
Why?
I don't know if it'll work. Because our driving behavior doesn't really change much throughout the year. It's kind of the same.
I suppose the one place that it will change is day-to-day driving versus going on holiday. You might want a particular feature when you, like for instance, you might be doing a lot of town driving. You don't need autonomous, highway driving.
Yeah.
So you switch it off, right? You go to Durban or Cape Town with your car. Now you don't really want to steer that route. So you turn on cruise control and autonomous steering.
I'm not sure I want to pay for that. In terms of the capital investments when I'm actually buying the car for the first time, I'm not too sure it's worth that additional money to have the option. I'd rather have
no, but you won't be paying for the option. You'll be paying for the car, and then you'll switch on the option. That's when you'll pay for it.
Yeah, but someone has to pay for it, and you're paying for it in the increased price of having those features there in the first place.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
but that's the way the world's going.
It's going to be interesting to see. I think Volkswagen is one of the few brands which are kind of speeding up this process of these software dream cars.
The cheapest,
and we'll
the
see
cheapest
how
base
goes.
model is going to be the one that is the same as the next one. That's the cheapest base model. If you're looking for a car that doesn't have that tech built in already, you're actually going to pay more than the base model with all the features.
Can you say that again? I need you process that one.
Okay. So on a production line,
Yes.
making a car, the most efficient, cheapest way to produce a car is when every single one of them are identical. It's for any product.
Yes.
Okay. So the scale.
I mean,
it's called economies of scale.
Yeah.
So when that happens and they put all the features in one car and they can switch it on and off, that's the cheapest base model you can have.
Because now you have economies of scale in terms of making all these additional features because you're doing it
no matter what.
Of
There's no change, right?
Yeah.
Whereas where you've got a production line that has, okay, this car goes on this track because that car has to have these features, and this one goes on. Now you've got to you start introducing costs to the production line.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So I don't think your world exists.
Yeah.
Where take off the features and the cost goes away. It doesn't happen. Actually, take off the features and you're paying to take off the features because someone has to do it.
100%.
Some robot has to do it.
Let's see what happens. I think it's called codename Project Trinity. Volkswagen is about to roll this out. Let's see how that goes.
Just remind me what Project Trinity is.
So Volkswagen wants to do this software kind of dream car where all the cars are identical and you can turn on the features on and off. They kind of want to, kind of streamline this, and you'll be able to subscribe on to all the features you want. They're going to be the first to do it at scale.
No.
Tesla's currently doing it right now, but I think they're
it.
going to be doing it globally at scale. And let's see how that goes before I make a decision. Personally, right now, I'm still on the fence.
I think I'm right, but let's see.
We will see. Okay, moving on. So traffic. How's your commute to work these days?
This morning was particularly not great.
Yeah.
I tried getting here between 8:30 and 9. Yeah. And today I battled.
Yeah.
Because load shedding meant there were traffic lights out.
Yep.
And I don't know, lately people have been hit with a stupid stick when driving.
Yes.
Don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well.
So I'm trying to just chill, calm
Take
down.
it easy. That's all you can do right now.
Have a cup of tea while I'm driving.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, And if somebody wants to pull in front of me, then pull in front of me. It's fine. It's not going to delay me much more.
Yeah.
But it is getting worse, and I think it's congestion post-pandemic.
Yes, it's a big
number
one.
1, and number 2, traffic lights out, chaos on the roads as a result.
So I've been doing a little bit of digging to see what are the traffic numbers in terms of has traffic in South Africa been actually increasing.
Oh, right. Let me tell you another thing that's if anybody's using this, I don't know. This is just my intuition, right? If anybody's using this,
Yeah.
I think it's a dumb feature.
Okay.
Okay. And that is Waze has this feature where you can go the non-load shedding route.
Okay.
Okay. So
Well, so you like what? Like you,
myself and my assistant,
yeah.
we live in the same vicinity, right?
Okay.
So the other day, I climbed in the car to come to the office. It was Tuesday. Coming to the office. She left at a similar time.
She was using the no load shedding.
Yes, route.
Yeah. And you were using just a.
I just used my regular route.
Yeah.
And the traffic was a breeze.
Yeah.
Why? Because everybody was
everyone's
using the load shedding
shedding.
route. So I think it's a dumb feature.
Yeah.
Because guess what it's going to do? It's going to force the congestion into a different route, and it's going to free up stuff for me. No, so actually, you know what? Carry on using it. I won't.
Well, here's the
It's
thing,
fine.
though. I mean, those things I use Waze to
I
get to the
think
office,
it's
right?
the dumbest thing on the planet.
And it's constantly updating in terms of reading the traffic. I've never more than 2 minutes been out of my ETA from when I left.
I haven't with Google Maps either.
I think Waze is better.
I don't think so.
So there's a few reasons why I think the traffic's getting worse. Less people working from home makes a lot of sense. More people on the roads. Public transports. I was speaking to one of the producers, and he was kind of flagging that South Africa is one of the worst public transport solutions in the world.
No, it doesn't have public
have
transport. But going back to the maps, even my Jaguar I-Pace's mapping system.
Is that live though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because I log in. It's got a SIM card.
Yeah.
That thing is never wrong. Never wrong in terms of ETA.
But
And
neither
it
is
changes
Waze.
the routes.
Neither is Waze. I'm sticking to Waze.
Waze is not great for me.
Load shedding, which you've kind of mentioned. Bad drivers, also another one. I don't know if you've seen, but there's a lot of broken down cars on the roads now, and that's also causing a lot of havoc. And then one that's impacting me. The reason why I'm taking like an hour and a half to get to work now is they've just closed one of the main roads near me, and it's been about 2 months now where this road has not been kind of fixed.
Well, the potholes are getting worse, I've noticed.
Yeah.
So, driving an SUV is useful, but, when it was raining for those weeks on end,
Yeah.
I was a little bit nervous because the potholes get covered with water.
Anymore.
You can't see them.
Yeah.
But potholes are getting worse. Residents are taking the pothole for repair into their own hands.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to talk about is the I don't know if you can call it illegal pointsmen.
Yes, I've seen them.
I believe now JMPD is starting to remove.
I saw an article about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So people might think that these pointsmen are being useful.
Yeah.
And maybe they've got a good heart and they've got good intentions, but it's really dangerous
To direct traffic.
to direct traffic from 4 directions.
Yeah.
The pointsman could effectively cause the collision.
Do you think pointsmen aid traffic flow?
For sure, if they're doing the job properly. So Outsurance was doing a brilliant job with pointsmen. I think they're still on the road, but there's just not enough resource with the number of traffic lights out.
I did see that specifically in Joburg, Outsurance is now, that contract's been removed. So they're not
Not doing
that's
it
why you
anymore.
don't see them as much anymore, because that contract's been completely ended. I think now there's just normal JMPD guys who are coming in.
Other day, I drove through an intersection, and there must have been about 15 JMPD people standing
Just watching.
on the island having a chat,
Yeah.
all with that gear on.
Yeah.
Obviously not Outsurance, it was JMPD.
Yeah.
The police cars parked on the side of the road, and I'm like thinking to myself, and the traffic light was out, and no one was directing the traffic.
There are scenarios where I've seen that when there is a pointsman, the traffic is worse.
That if
could be
the
due to pointsman not being great.
I would say that's a training issue.
Yeah.
You should have better traffic flow with pointsmen. Theoretically, the pointsman should be able to read the traffic jam.
Yeah.
And
be able
then
to tell.
because if
But it backs it up. Like when you have a 4-way stop with multi lanes, also turning lanes, it becomes kind of.
Yeah, but that's a 4-way stop. So the pointsman's then to create a scenario where it isn't a 4-way stop.
Okay.
Okay, so there should be no scenario where. So the backup is created by that momentary stop of all 4 sides.
Yeah.
Okay, so the pointsman, his objective should be to remove that momentary stop and there's always a side that's flowing.
2 sides at least.
Or 2 sides that's flowing.
Yeah.
So it's that moment here, because everybody comes to a stop, everybody looks around, who's got to go, you go. There's that moment, that is the traffic jam.
Yeah, it adds up quite quickly. So I did some digging to see, has traffic in South Africa increased? It has. So now in South Africa, there's 2 cities which have, in the top 100 cities of the worst traffic, they're on the list. Do you want to take a guess which those 2 cities are?
Well, you tell me.
Cape Town and Joburg, which is no surprise to anyone, I think. People say Cape Town is the worst traffic, but whenever I'm there, it's really not that bad. It must be where I am, because Joburg right now is horrendous.
Okay, so if it's the reason why this is bad, and I don't know why you haven't experienced it, but I grew up in Cape Town before my driving days, but I've been to Cape Town for the last 20 years, multiple times a year.
And it's always the same thing.
And the reason this happens is because this city bowl, all the highways converge into the city bowl and they come to a stop.
100%.
So you're doing, everyone on the highway is doing 120 k's an hour, and then suddenly it comes to a stop. If you look at the highway coming into Cape Town past the harbour,
so that side,
coming in through that way, past the harbour, into the waterfront area, right? There's a traffic light at the end of the highway.
Yeah. So it's all this traffic just coming in and converging at this one traffic light.
Into the city bowl. So that's what's causing the traffic.
I think it's because I'm always...
Doesn't help going the opposite way, because there's still traffic going out of Cape Town.
Yeah.
But Cape Town is really bad.
How bad is it? So they currently ranked 43rd in worst traffic congested cities in the world.
That's not bad. Who's number 1?
I don't actually know. That's a good question. Yeah, it's probably... I don't know. I have no idea.
Mumbai.
Yeah, they're probably up there. And then Joburg sitting at 71st. But 10th on the list was actually Valcom. That's in the top 10 worst, and it's actually one of the least ranked ones. Pretoria is 4th, which I thought was pretty decent, and then PE is 3rd. So, it's kind of the 4 major cities are...
Gqeberha,
yeah. That's what it is now. But it's kind of those 4 major cities which are the problem right now. It's going to get better. Let's see. I think load shedding has a huge contribution to how bad the traffic is right now.
Yeah, no, that's horrendous. I'll just chill, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so before we leave, something that I wanted to kind of pick your brain on is, do you think modern cars look ugly or are boring right now versus, let's say, the last 3 decades?
No. I mean, cars need to move in a direction where aerodynamics, if you're talking about the outside, or you're talking about the inside?
Let's talk about just the driving experience as well as the actual...
Well, so driving experience is subjective, and so is the look of the car. It's all subjective, right? I'd say the look of the car, the driving experience is mostly subjective, depending on what your needs are. But the outside of the car has to move towards the least, or should I say the least drag
coefficient,
well, no, the aerodynamic drag, it has to have the lowest drag coefficient. And that's probably why you're saying it's getting boring, because everyone's converging on this most efficient drag coefficient. Now you have to go there with electric cars, because electric cars are massively impacted by drag.
So
and then rolling resistance.
2 schools of thought in this, and I think one is efficiency in terms of drag, and making sure that the consumer is not being kind of heated by fuel, and I guess with regards to electric vehicles, I don't know how to say this, but essentially the bulkier it is, the less efficient it will become ultimately. But at the same time, all the cars now look the same, and that's where my biggest concern is. And
so we're moving to a world where your experience in the car is much more important than how it looks on the outside.
Yeah.
So I think inside the car, the features the car has, the comfort, all those things are going to become more and more important, and the outside aesthetics are going to be all the same. You're going to have a commoditized outside look.
Yeah.
Why do you want it to look cool on the outside? Why? Because you're trying to impress who?
I think it makes sense for the OEM in terms of what they're doing.
No, but you as a consumer.
But for me as a consumer, I love cars. So I'm speaking from points of bias, and I don't think my opinion matters in this.
No, of course it does. But those people who care that much of the outside look of the car. Who are they trying to impress?
Trying to feel good. I think cars have always been a way where you can express yourself. And I think it's gone to a point now where everyone looks the same, and that aspect of using your car as an extension of yourself has been completely lost. So it's kind of sad for me to see it, but at the same time, I can understand as a car company why it's moved in that direction. And it's something that I guess, like you're saying, we're gonna have to get used to. But there are companies like BMW. People hate their designs now. I love them simply because they are a bit different.
Subjective. It's subjective. Exactly. When's the first race?
First race is testing is on the 25th of Feb, if I'm not mistaken, and then the first race like the 5th of March. And I think we're going to Bahrain. So
let's have a look.
Shortly after this episode airs, we'll be racing again.
2023 schedule. What is the 2023 schedule? 2023. Formula One, first race 2023. There are 23 races. Kick-off in Bahrain on the 5th of March.
5 March.
And finishes up again in Abu Dhabi on the 26th of November with the brand new Las Vegas Grand Prix.
But we do lose China this year because of COVID, unfortunately. So yeah, let's see. Shortly after this episode, we'll be able to get racing again. That's pretty much all the time we have for today, George. Thank you for joining me.
I don't even know to say. Go Leclerc, go whoever wins.
Yeah,
I don't know anymore.